the life force of your bond. A power like life itself, unseen for generations. A dyad in the force.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Dyad in the Force, episode 177.
That's a lot. That's all I know. That's high up there.
It's a lot. Shout out to everybody in the TikTok side, Slump Samongo, Diablo Americano, Joshua, NeoCloud, Strider, Amanda, Steampunk Wordsmith, Amaya, Tony Bonds, Lynn Allen, Stygian Siren, Dawn, probably Pete. Yeah, probably.
Steampunk Wordsmith, great to see you out here.
Every time someone says probably, I have to do that. Probably. How's it going, Master James Kenobi? Yeah.
James.
177.
James, how are you?
Our main topic, of course, this week is ACOLYTE Episode 4 Day. There's been a lot of theories rolling around, a lot of hoopla, things happening. I will say this, and I think it needs to be said. This community will not, does not tolerate misogyny, racism, bigotry, hatred of any kind. It does not matter whether you like something or dislike something.
It's never
in Star Wars. All you gotta do is focus on what you like. If you find yourself swiping through videos looking for people who like something only to tear them down, you need to go touch grass. Find a rock to kick down the road. You know, address the boredom. But you should never be weaponizing anyone's joy. And this message goes out to Chet. Grow a pair, dude. Like, handle the shade with grace. I'm gonna make a t-shirt. Handle the shade with grace. It's not that serious. It really isn't. Nothing.
Do you think episode 3 would have been received better if they didn't do the whole Force Children thing? No.
They still would have found something.
And that's the problem, right? I mean, if this week being mad at Kiarimunda's birthday was any indication, they don't care. They don't care what it is. They will be mad at something. Listen, if you believe that Anakin was created by the will of the Force, then these girls don't affect that. They weren't created by the will of the Force. Like,
we don't know how they were created.
Level.
Period.
We don't know how Anakin was created.
But just to stick to the ACOLYTE discussion, we don't know. Anastasia said, I created them. And Coral said, I carried them. That's the only information we have. We don't know how that happened. And so there's no reason for us to speculate on whether or not it's the same thing as Anakin's story. Or if it has anything to do with Anakin's story. Either way, the message of this, or the sponsor of this episode of Dyad in the Force, is be excellent to each other. Shout out to David Xanatos from Gargoyles in the YouTube side. Shout out to Marianne. Let's see here. Steampunk Wordsmith says, I still hold my position on Jawas being scavengers and untrustworthy business matters. True. I wouldn't trust a Jawa in any kind of bartering as far as I can throw them. And I can throw them pretty far.
Yeah, it was like that doesn't say much.
I know. I kind of like stepped on my own toes there. I don't trust them for... Well, actually, no. How would I make that work?
I trust them only as far as I can kick them.
I trust them as only as far as I can see their face. Marianne asks, formerly Darth? That's what I have on here.
No, I actually have been thinking about dropping the Darth from my title altogether, because for a few reasons. For one, people who don't watch Star Wars will see it and go, "Hey, Darth," and it feels weird. It feels wrong, and I hate it. But also, I've had the name since I was an edgy 17-year-old who loved Grey Jedi and thought Revan was like just the bee's knees. Which I do love Revan still, but we grow, we mature, and I realized, like, yeah, I don't truly conduct myself like a Darth, so maybe I should start using
17-year-old.
Stop using it.
James says,
I was edgy. That's for damn sure.
Dave says, I'd rather be called Darth than Xanax. Who's called you Xanax? I've only called you David Xanatos. Let's see here. Is Chimere the master or apprentice? Goofy old dad, Gen X says. The world.
I'm betting he's the apprentice, but we shall have to see. Pookie says, what's up, man? How do you feel about the Acolyte? Yeah, we're talking about it, enjoying it. Have certain critiques. I think there are certain story issues or acting issues in it. But overall, I'm still enjoying it, and I'm enjoying unraveling this mystery. I like what it's doing for Star Wars, and I like the expansion of the lore.
Yes. Basically the same thoughts. I have my criticisms about how certain scenes are filmed, how certain dialogue doesn't land. But the overall mystery, yeah, I'm totally invested in it. This is the most I've ever theory crafted in recent memory for Star Wars. Andor was brilliant, but I was just along for the ride. Like, that show was just kind of just a awesome ride. Ahsoka, there was some theory crafting in Ahsoka, but I kind of knew what kind of story beats they were trying to hit with her. There's some theories about, Skull, what he was after, but the amount of theories that I've crafted in the last 2 episodes just far surpass anything I've done in the last 3 shows. So the mystery is there for sure.
Cravens, you're a big Book of Boba Fett defender. Yeah, so Book of Boba Fett is a series I plan to do a series on revisiting. I want to go back because a lot of these projects have suffered primarily due to the pandemic, right? Pandemic was hard on a lot of these series, but also just the commentary, the noise happening while we're watching each and every episode. I want to be able to sit down and get through it in, I don't know, maybe 2 sessions and see how it sits with me and see if that changes where I rank it. It's pretty low right now.
Yeah. So back to that question, is Chimere the master and apprentice? I label apprentice and acolyte as the same thing. So I think Chimere is the acolyte / apprentice, and there's a greater master behind him. That's what I think. Let's see here. I had that phase 2 where I was all about having an edgy red lightsaber. Yeah, we all have. Actually, I never did. I had an edgy blue lightsaber phase, but I've always been a Jedi. I'm an OG Star Wars fan and just love new Star Wars stories. Yeah, that's what it's all about, man. Sometimes the stories don't stick. Sometimes the stories don't land, and that's perfectly fine. You don't have to love everything. But you also don't have to hate. And you don't have to spread that hate. You know what I mean? The appearance of the Mordecai statue still has me theory crafting. Yeah, it does, but you know, it starts and ends there. So there's multiple strands. There's multiple stasises in this show that I'm kind of exploring. Could you imagine if Chimera ends up being a prismatic Sith? I'm just kidding. The only theory I have about Acolyte is it ties Skywalker arc to High Republic, and that's awesome.
Although I think the greatest tie from the Skywalker arc is the conversation between Elzar Mann and Luke.
Yeah.
On the Mushroom Planet.
And how
by the way,
like,
I'm marinating some mushrooms right now. They're pretty damn tasty. Some
I don't know if I sent you
like a garlic parmesan with more spices and stuff. I've been trying to play around with certain things, meat replacements.
I'm a purist when it comes to mushrooms. Last week I got a whole bunch of creminis, and I just did salt and pepper and threw it on the grill and just let them all.
I mean, you can't go wrong
up.
with that either.
Let's see here. Marianne says, let's see here. Xanax is supposed to calm you down. You're a calm person, so there you go. David is quite the calm and stoic person.
All right, so just take some of David, see how you feel a little bit.
Take some of David. How's it going, KG? I know KG recognizes this shirt. Chimera is somehow the Emperor from Store. Really? That's a theory I've not heard in a long time. Not ever, actually. But I mean, listen, if they go past Tenebris and canon Tenebrae, like 5,000, or when was Tenebrae?
I mean, it'd be wild if they do it.
It'll be thousands of years.
Yeah, I mean, arguably, potentially tens of thousands of years, right? He's about the same type. No, they're High Republic. This is Old Republic, so this is at least 3,000 years earlier, at the very least.
Blindly loving every Disney Star Wars project and focusing on dumb criticisms is killing Star Wars. I mean, I would give that to you. Like, granted, we don't love everything that Disney... And I have to say, can we stop calling it Disney Star Wars? Please? Is that too much to ask?
It's so funny, because like, I've never met anyone who blindly loves all of it. Or talk to anyone, you know? We all talk about our criticism of things. And so, I get these all the time. And I always ask people, like, they're like, oh, you focus on these, but not on the real criticisms. And which is also weird, because we do talk about them openly and often. But I always ask those people, okay, what is the real legitimate criticism? And then they'll say something that doesn't quite add up, right? It doesn't actually hold water. And I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? And it always ends up with like misogyny or a nitpick. That's where it's like unwrapping something, and then every time you get to the center and it's poop, and you're like, okay, well, but I still go in with good faith every single time. I'll try with the next person.
What I'm trying to say is, and we talked about this on the pre-show. It's not Disney's castle that plays in the front of these projects. It's Lucasfilm. And George Lucas got to pick his successor in Kathleen Kennedy and Dave Filoni, and everyone in Lucasfilm that was there during, before, and after the acquisition. So it is still Lucasfilm Star Wars. We don't go around saying Disney MCU. We didn't say Disney's Shogun.
Yeah. And Pookie, that is the correct way. It's underscore element 7 underscore. Definitely give him a follow. 716.
안녕하세요. Or Disney Doctor Who. It's right. I mean, Disney owns these companies, but Disney is not the one producing them. You know?
No, man, you don't know. It's a conspiracy because everything I like, it's because Disney did it and Kathleen Kennedy. That's everything I don't like. Everything I do like, it's because they wouldn't let her in the room and they barricaded the doors.
Don't shout conspiracy into the ether, man, especially when Terence Howard exists.
I still can't get over, like, not only was that interview one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in my life, but the interview of him that I saw prior to this, he had this like Farrah Fawcett hair, and I was like, "What the hell's going on with this dude?"
I just remember
He's
that
having
interview.
some
You
type
remember
of
this-
crisis.
you remember this in the interview? Don't turn off my phone. And then Joe's like, who's they? It's like, you know, they control everything. I can't show you this video because my laptop. It's just so. So you like Acolyte the third episode? Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Cody says you can't like new Star Wars without being a Disney shill. I'd love to see a check from Disney. Cody,
we would love to see that, Pep. We would love to
see that. Like this right here behind me, that's all paid for by me, but also over past the backdrop, ain't looking too hot. I would love to see a check. Where's my MF movie check? Kiadimundi's age was not a big deal. It was never canon. People are so upset about it. LOL. Yeah, like we said in our pre-show, nobody gave an F about Kiadimundi.
I mean, people cared about him. They hated his guts. He's probably the most hated Jedi on the council, I would say.
Andre says, I didn't say you focused on dumb criticism. I was talking about focusing on Kiadimundi's age. I think you were saying, like, the people that blindly love everything Disney, which I'll grant, there are some people out there, and then the people who are that come out of the woodwork and be like, suddenly Kiadimundi matters to me. Or Fires in Space. Those people.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to fall back on. There's no. You'd have to show me some data or something because there's. Outside of that, there's no way I end up believing that people enjoying watching something is the problem with that thing.
I think they're two different problems. But I also think it's not that big of a deal. So you like how they changed the concept of the Force and how kids other than Anakin were fatherless? They didn't change the concept of the Force. We are lore masters, so we kind of know how the Force works. Just because there's another sect that has a different interpretation of the Force and calls it a different thing, just like the Zepho called it the Life Wind, just like the Mistweavers called it the Mist, just like the Sorcerers of Tun called it the Unity.
They call it the Unity. Yeah.
Doesn't mean they changed the concept of the Force. They're still pulling the thread is still compelling the Force.
And in fact, it's kind of clear that the concept of the thread came directly from Yoda's quote of binding, penetrating, surrounding us.
Yes.
And it makes sense. It's one of the better ones.
And how the kids, other than Anakin, were fatherless. That has nothing to do with Anakin. They're fatherless. They may have found a way, technologically speaking, or through sorcery, to create life, but it's not the way Anakin was created at all. If in fact we were going to establish a creation in general.
Yeah. So, there's things that we just don't know. And if you naturally assume that it's the thing you don't like, that's kind of a you thing. But yeah, like we said before the show, if Anakin indeed was created by the will of the Force as kind of its avatar to bring balance, yeah, the girls weren't. They weren't created by the will of the Force. You know, like there's a massive difference between using a tool and building something, and then that tool of its own volition getting up and building that thing. To say otherwise is weird. Where besides here can I watch this? 7/16. Go to the YouTube side, and we are at Dyad and the Force. You can watch us there.
/Dyad in the Force. But doesn't that change Force-sensitive people and midichlorians? Because the witches and Acolyte show anyone can use the Force. It doesn't show that anyone can use the Force. It shows that the people within the Coven can. It's just like the Jedi. It's like, if you saw a whole bunch of Jedi using the Force, that doesn't mean everybody can use the Force. It's just everybody in that group can use it.
But moreover, Ahsoka was the idea where the idea that anyone can use the Force comes from. Modernly, George Lucas was where it comes from initially.
The Night Sisters don't use the Force. They still have certain Force-sensitive sisters. That's true. But
I mean, the Night Sisters do still manipulate the Force, but they augment themselves by using the Ichor. So Mother Talzin also like straight up says, "I am not a natural Force. I'm not a natural Force wielder myself." Well, that means how was she wielding the Force? It was through items, through the Ichor. So to say that what they did doesn't use a Force would be inaccurate. By the way, in canon, the Night Sisters have already created life.
And
Fun
they've
fact.
already resurrected people. Way before Plagueis and Tenebris. Like, when, if you know the Plagueis book and, you know, you read about him finally resurrecting Venomous. Yeah, that was done way long ago by the Night Sisters. The Singing Mountain Clan. I didn't realize the Singing Mountain Clan was canon too. Like there's a like a small mention of them. Yeah,
Clone Wars stories of light and dark. What else? Also interesting fact is in it's in the expanded universe too, like artificially created Force sensitive people. It wasn't hard. Like George Sabaoth was one of the main characters in the Thrawn trilogy, as was Luke was also created, like a creative being using the Force, and Jack 14, Skippy the Jedi droid.
Oh yeah.
Like
so magic is still considered a form of the Force. How does this happen? TikTok Studio needs to stop with the inactivity prompts. Genuinely curious. Okay, so
I think a great resource on this is the Sam Maggs book. You know, the Jedi Survivor prequel. Yeah, Battle Scars. Because in that story, we actually get into the mind of
Marin.
But we actually get to see how Marin accesses the Force and accesses the dark side and what it feels like to her, as well as how it's very different from how the Jedi do it and how Later, she runs into Quizzy, and no, not Quizzy, the other Inquisitor from the show, played by Han. But yeah, it's very different.
Fifth brother.
Yeah.
See, we fill each other's gaps in knowledge.
Yes.
Or in
Names
memory,
just
that
fall
is.
out of my brain from time to time. Florida Man asks, what would be your ideal sequel to Jedi Survivor? Fantastic question. What's up, Pete?
The Jedi Path. The Jedi Path. Thanks you for the roses, Kylo Ren, Fire Radar 2. But to answer your question, I love my fiance. All of these, the Night Sisters, the Jedi, the Sith, they all draw upon the Force, but the Night Sisters use kind of a middleman in the Iker. Which is why their use of the dark side isn't immediately corrupting. Though there is a thing called the fire. Oh, now the name is escaping me. There's a condition called
Forcesis?
pyresis or something. There's a condition within the Night Sisters that if they use too much of the Iker, too much of their abilities, they will start to be they will have like fevers and stuff. They'll start to get really like, they'll feel the effects of the corruption, but it's not the same as directly tapping into the dark side like the Sith. So that's why you have people like Marin who, if they use it too much, they will start to feel the effects of it, but they're not immediately corruptible like the Sith who use it directly. I know somebody in the chats knows the name of this condition.
Yeah,
Like, I'm trying to think of this condition, and all I can think of is Magrak syndrome and Skier. And that's not the thing.
So how does the Acolyte affect Anakin's origin? It doesn't affect it at all.
Yep.
I mean, you can read the entire prophecy. It's in the book, Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray. Read it and then ask yourself how they affect it.
Thanks. Gotta go to formation.
There's no logical connection.
I'll tune into your lives. Thanks for the answers. God bless. Hey, thanks for tuning in, and thank you for engaging in good faith. We always love those conversations, and this message goes out to everybody in the chat. Like, even if you guys have trepidations or hesitations about the show, The Acolyte, with lore or anything like that, you can always engage us in good faith, and we'll have conversations with you. Yeah, so long as you guys are willing to learn, and if you don't believe us, we'll cite our sources too, so that it doesn't feel like you're just taking our word for it.
Trust me, bro.
Yeah. We're you don't have to trust us. We'll give you guys the information and where we got it. Also, when I say never mind. I was gonna go into a rabbit hole of the Grey Jedi, but not today.
Not today, Satan.
Not today, Satan. All right, Choco. Let's move into our lore segment. You can prompt this time. All you gotta do is start off with everything you know about Star Wars.
All right. Yep. So we do this to film little episodes that we can say, but that we can kind of cut off and post. But let's get into it. Everything you know about Star Wars is wrong. Today we're going to ask the question, is the dark side evil? Is the dark side actually bad? And what does that mean for the rest of Star Wars and how the Force and balance work? Pep, what are you thinking?
So immediately the short answer is no. The way the Force works naturally is a cycle between good, or not good, a cycle between the light and the dark. Light represents life, growth and progress, and the dark represents death, decay, and the cycle into rebirth. Entropy. And so whenever we think about the light side,
playing a lot of Destiny too.
whenever we think about the light side and the dark side, just in nature itself, it's all a cycle of life, death, and rebirth. And there's nothing wrong with the dark side. That is why, even though the Force permeates as the living force and as the cosmic force throughout all of the galaxy, there are still nexi of the dark side, planets of the dark side, planets of the light side, and the Force makes no distinction between the two because it is just part of its cycle. And then we bring in the Jedi and the Sith.
Well, I also, before we do that, I also just want to point out a great example of this is if you watch the Mortis arc on the Clone Wars, what you'll see is a planet that in and of itself is balanced. You'll see the landscape starts out green, like it's springtime, goes into its own summer cycle, into its own fall, winter, and everything is barren. And then it goes back into light, right? It goes back into spring, back into it's a
the
natural
day-night cycle.
Yeah. Same thing where you have the daughter and the son. Both of them exist naturally. Now, there can be a problem when it comes to using the dark side, but its existence in and of itself is not bad or negative. And I think we hold these concepts of Jedi, good, light as one, and Sith, dark, bad as another. And all of these things are independent. They can be related, but they are not intrinsically related.
Yeah, and so to address, we're filming this in front of a live studio audience. Just kidding. Live chat. Andre says, didn't George say the dark side was all about selfishness and evil? And whenever we refer to anything that George Lucas says, he's referring to its use. You know,
Yes.
whenever he is asked about this in interviews and discusses the light and the dark side, it's usually within the framework of the Jedi and the Sith. He talks about the Sith being addicts, and it's a drug, the dark side, and the more you take it, the more you need for it to replenish, and it becomes selfish, and it's very short-lived, and so you just keep going and going and going, and that is filled with selfish action. And that's why, and that leads to George Lucas's other quote, which is, balance is the light. What he is saying is that you can use or ally yourself with the light side and serve the light and not be imbalanced.
Yeah. So think about it like a forest. All right. If this is the energy field of life, you can have a forest that has its day-night cycle. It has its yearly cycles. It even has cycles larger than that of, trees grow too tall and then the small ones can't get any light. And then those tall trees end up falling and then there's a fire. And then after that, you get shrubbery that grows back into those trees. That's a cycle. That's natural and in and of itself. Now you can have people who live on the land. Now those people can live in harmony with the land, right? That would be like serving the light. Their presence isn't a danger to the forest or to its creatures or to its cycle. But when you go to the dark side, that's being selfish, right? That would be you start cutting down all the trees, you start hoarding things. It's beyond what you need, but you got more. Now you want more, and now you're afraid other people are going to get it. So you need to make walls to keep other people away from it, and then weapons, and then soldiers, and all this stuff. And now you're running a logging company, and you threaten to destroy the forest itself, right? It's that access to the dark side that becomes corrosive, and it becomes the negative, and it is selfishness. But serving the light in and of itself doesn't do any of that.
Yeah, and to build off of what Choco just said, a famous metaphor that both Choco and I adhere to and use all the time is that think of the Force as a forest and a river. And in and of itself, life will decay and it will be reborn and it will go through its cycles. And then you have the Jedi and the Sith. The Jedi are the ones who build a water wheel, a water mill, to use the river's current to aid them in their everyday life. The Sith are going to build a dam to change the current of the river, affecting the ecosystem, everything downwind from that waterfall.
Yeah. In the chat, can you guys hear me? You guys should be able to hear me. Oh, the music is too loud. Gotcha.
Oh, suddenly there's a song that's like... All right, well... And so this brings us to...
It has like a vaudeville style, like, hits on the keys, you know?
This brings us to the bottom line of this kind of topic, is that the Jedi, in and of themselves, do not bring imbalance to the Force. So that's when people say, oh, you know, Anakin brought balance because it eliminated the Jedi. That is untrue. The Sith are the ones that bring imbalance to the Force because they're the ones using the side of the Force that cannot be used. The dark side cannot be controlled.
Yeah. And so how I feel, now this is my own headcanon, my own theory, but it does work extremely well with everything I've learned in canon, is that you know, Anakin obviously is the chosen one, and being the chosen one meant that ecosystem was going to hit a turning point. It was going to hit a point of no return. That at this level of corruption, at this level of destruction, it would not be able to replenish itself. And basically Anakin's actions, if we go back to that original Force, you know, theme, or you know, Force and a river, this would be like Anakin cleared all of those people out, all the people who were manipulating it for its bad end, cleared all of them out. Doesn't fix everything instantly, but now nature can kind of come back and reclaim itself. Doesn't mean that other people in the future aren't going to threaten it as well. Yeah. But we prevented hitting that point of no return.
From the dam breaking wide open and just flooding the entire downstream ecosystem entirely. That's what we avoided.
Sorry, now you got me thinking of Hurricane Katrina, and then I started thinking about Kanye West. And my favorite clip of all time. But we won't talk about that right now.
But there you go. That's the gist of it. The dark side is not evil in and of itself, but the ones that use it, that subjugate it and change the current of the Force, that's evil.
Yeah. Handre in my chat asks, why do people say Anakin achieved balance by killing the Jedi and Sith?
I think we just we did just establish.
Well, we explained what was correct, but not why people make the incorrect assumption. So for that, I think it's really easy to see balance, to think that Jedi and Sith represent all of the Force, which they don't. There's a lot more to the Force. To say that is vanity, to quote Luke Skywalker. But if you're only aware of Jedi and Sith, then you think they're the whole Force. Okay. Then you think, well, then the balance has to mean equal sides of equal amounts of Jedi and Sith, which there's never been. Even in George's original treatments, there was always over 100 Jedi survivors. The Jedi Order was destroyed. Yoda was still alive. Obi-Wan was still alive. Like, the Jedi Order never went away. And, I mean, that logic never quite added up, because even if you did feel that way, well, then after Vader took down the Emperor and then died himself, he left Luke. So that would still be in balance, right?
Yeah, just the basics of that question, or the answer, is a lot of people thought that balance in the Force meant an equal number of Jedi and an equal number of Sith. That the Force was this tipping scale, and the Jedi were too much. So the elimination of the Order was what brought it into balance, but that's not the case, because as soon as Order 66 happened and the Emperor had taken over, the Force was still out of balance. So it had nothing to do with the numbers at all. and doesn't.
Like that would actually imply that the original trilogy was in balance the entire time, because you had Yoda and Obi-Wan, and you had Vader and and Palpatine, right? So yeah, that idea never made sense.
Eric Carter says, so you're saying the prophecy was crap? I think it's crap as a storytelling device. But
I don't like prophecies as a storytelling device in general because it removes agency, and it is a way to add to cheaply add inexplicable things, just unbelievable things. You can write all sorts of Deus Ex Machina, and then the people will say, "Well, they're the chosen one, so whatever."
Yeah. But in terms of the prophecy itself, it's not crap because the prophecy doesn't.
It happened.
The prophecy doesn't specify how things will play out. All we're interested in is that it did play out, and so Anakin did destroy the Sith, and brought balance by also destroying himself. You mean Thread? We can talk about it with the name Thread, yeah, too. It doesn't matter. Do you consider interview answers to be canon, like Obi-Wan being from Stu John? Prior to the Disney acquisition, anything George said was canon. So George said it, and it became canon.
Which made things difficult because George just says a lot of things and sometimes backtracks on something he previously said.
And after the acquisition, they then put in place a structure and a framework for how things would be considered canon. And under Lucasfilm, after the acquisition, into like tweets and interview answers are not canon.
Yeah, so they're not canon in and of themselves, but they can give you an idea of a thorough intent.
Yeah.
But what is cool, though, is that now that we have that established canon, we also can now have canon resources that we can look and find information out in. So we can look at a visual dictionary for, like the visual dictionary for Rise of Skywalker now contains all canon information, and you can find things out if you want.
Neo Cloud Shatter says Luke and Leia would then have to be one of the Sith under that idea. Exactly. I mean, it would just make Star Wars boring. Like no one would have to, like, if you imagine like a room of 2 Jedi and a room of 2 Sith, and they're like, well, fellas, we're in balance. I guess we have no problem here. But clearly the Sith want to dominate, so they're not just going to be like, yeah, that's true. We are in balance. We'll leave you guys alone.
Yeah, and also in the expanded universe, there was a whole literal planet of Sith. There was a lost planet of Sith, of dark side users. And so if that were the case, it would also imply for our Legends friends that there was never anything remotely even approaching balance at any point.
How's it going, Darth Skeptical? KG said while we were discussing the dark side, light side concept, they said, interesting, that's what Balin was seeking, to end that cycle and go back to the start. Is that why?
Yes.
Is that why you're Darth Treya? Yeah, but he's obviously,
I think it's
a nut job. I'm just kidding.
Supreme Leader says, I need Sith planet in canon. The Sith planet, they did bring some interesting ideas because it was a planet of the original Sith. So in the expanded universe, the Sith were a race of people. And it was actually a Jedi that broke off from the Order, joined these people, and kind of a mix. So this planet had Sith, and it also had humans. The humans were like the second-class citizens. And it had some interesting dynamics in and of itself that were fun to explore. But the Sith are weirdos.
Makes sense for it to be bogus, since, as you guys stated, the Force is bigger than just the Jedi and the Sith. Yeah, I mean, in general, though, the prophecy was prophesied by a Jedi mystic, so it would be biased towards their involvement for sure.
That was actually one of my favorite additions from the Revenge of the Sith book, where Obi-Wan's talking about it, and he's like, the prophecy never says that the person who brings balance has to be a Jedi. You know, like Anakin could have just left and done something different. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The prophecy itself in text doesn't say
prophecy
anything about Jedi and Sith.
No. I do think the prophecy does make an interesting point, though, in Revenge of the Sith specifically, because if Anakin believed he was the chosen one, and he believed that he was going to bring balance to the galaxy, and he had killed Count Dooku, right? He had killed the Apprentice, and Palpatine was dead to rights with Mace Windu. That means in that moment, Anakin knew that he would be fulfilling the prophecy if he allowed Palpatine to be taken down or took him down himself. He would fulfill the prophecy right then and there. And instead of fulfilling the prophecy that had meant everything his entire life, he turned his back on it and joined the Sith. That was an active choice on his part. So I think it was good storytelling in that perspective, but I feel like no one focuses on that on that moment.
Yeah, also the people that complain about the prophecy being ruined in some regards to certain projects.
They don't know the prophecy. Those people don't know the prophecy, I promise.
Well, they also like completely miss what was in the movie in general. The entire idea that misread the prophecy could have been. So you have a bunch of Jedi who have a prophecy and believe Anakin to be the chosen one, but we also have a couple of Jedi who are like, maybe we got it all wrong. And then there's people today who think they've got it all right. They know exactly what the prophecy meant.
Yeah, so fun fact, we didn't actually have a prophecy until 2019. So,
damn, was that when Master and Apprentice... No, didn't it come out in 2018? September?
I'm pretty sure... Maybe it was 2018. It was one of the two.
Either way, we didn't have one, right?
Either way, we didn't have one for a very, very long time. Let's see. Supreme Leader, in your SWTOR character was Sith, which you thought was neat. Yeah, I did play through all the storylines. I was partial to the agent storyline. But apparently, that game, there's no rules anymore. And so you could actually make yourself just a Jedi and play through like the agent storyline, which I think might be funny.
Is it wrong that I keep hearing Asian storyline?
Secret Asian man. How's
it going, Legacy of Naboo?
The song said.
But yeah, I mean, having 2 Jedi and 2 Sith in a room would never be equal. Sith hate will always cause imbalance. I mean, but that's literally the crux of that argument. If you have two Jedi and 2 Sith, the Sith will throw it out of balance. Even if they're equal in number, they will throw it out of balance.
Yeah.
It's like, hey guys, we're equal, right? 2 to 2, and the Sith are like, you die, and then they'll kill this Jedi and throw it out of balance. Either way,
man, it just reminds me of a conversation I had with a friend, because with the ACOLYTE, there's been a lot of weird stuff in the community. I've personally been getting some pretty nasty or bigoted like remarks, and my friend was like, just show them love and kindness. And I was like, that's my MO.
That's specifically my MO. I like to throw shade with a calm demeanor just to make him more angry.
So I'll throw shade with a calm demeanor, but like not addressing a problem doesn't fix it, especially when their problem is that they hate you for existing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. It's a quote. It's a quote that I like to operate off of, which is, not being part of the problem does not equate to you being part of the solution.
Yeah. There's a difference between, I like pineapple on pizza. Maybe you don't. We could still be friends, right? I like being alive. You want me dead. We probably can't move past that. You know what I mean? Like,
That's
I'm just
a deal
saying,
breaker. You must end
Michael says,
this relationship at the outset.
I do wish we moved past Sith villains in future live action stories. Okay, like, do you want to move past Sith villains specifically, or dark side Force users, or I'm curious because we could do a lot of stuff.
I'm actually down for that. Like we've been pitching a show forever that's like The Office, except the Jedi, or The Office, but just some randos on Coruscant. There wouldn't be a villain. There'd just be some conflicts in the office and the politics there, and just normal people living in Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, it may be too on the nose, but I think it might be interesting to have a story way in the future where the Jedi Order is complete, and there's another prophecy, and half of them think that it's real, and the other half don't, and how does that affect them? Will these guys do?
That's gonna happen.
Make wrong decisions.
In the past.
Yeah. Well, but will these people do the wrong thing now because they think it's in line with the prophecy that will give them something better later? Or should you do the right thing right now? And it would end up being a, living force versus trying to see the future type thing, which, by the way, trying to look into the future has always hinted badly for the Jedi. Always.
Yeah.
Always.
That's the storyline of Into the Void. Essentially, there was what they call a schism of ideologies. And I forget the name of the Jedi Master, or the Jedi Master, who was like, y'all agree with me? And then they're like, yeah, we're the Jedi. And that's why I don't like that story. But I do know that, like, I'm excited for Dawn of the Jedi with Mangold, because if we get any version of a schism where, like, there's an ideological shift or dichotomy, it's going to be an interesting story beat.
Who did that Bendu is a space libertarian video the other day? That would be Josh. That's Mesa Windu.
I need a show about the Jedi Temple HR department. You know what? Jen Markham is doing the 911 dispatcher Jedi. I want a show about that too. 911, this is the Jedi. And then, Miss Carol, that's not an emergency. You can't always send Jedi to your house. Like, it's a funny series.
Could you imagine the Jedi press secretary? That would actually be pretty funny. I want to see Palpatine's press secretary. I think that would be it might be too on the nose, but like, yes. The Jedi tried. The most powerful Jedi Masters got together. They tried to overthrow the government. They tried to overthrow Palpatine, but he's okay. He made it. And they've all been eliminated. And like, how did they die? I don't know, man. Wait. A bunch of Jedi Masters tried to fight Palpatine, and they're all dead, and he survived. How does that work? I don't know, man.
George Lucas. That's how it works.
Don't ask.
Master James Kenobi said, and one day a Jedi runs out of cookies. I don't know why that sentence made me think of Arnold as Plo Koon. He just like shows up in the cafeteria of the Jedi Temple, and then like he sees the cookie jar is empty, and Plo Koon is just looking around. Who told you could eat my cookies? And then he sees like Yoda walking away with his cane. Put that cookie down.
No, also just like a space pirate movie we can see, because there's several different pirate factions out there already. Maz Kanata was a pirate queen. We have Hondo Onaka. You can't tell me you can't picture someone being like, "That's the worst pirate I've ever seen," and it's Hondo Onaka sashaying off into the distance.
But stop in your tracks right now, because the one show that we've been clamoring for and have not gotten that will be totally epic is an Afra show.
Yeah.
Just, what did they say at the beginning of the ACOLYTE show that we thought there would be Afra in it? It's a space Indiana Jones where
Oh yeah.
they go from planet to planet gallivanting, and then I'm just like, give me Afra now. I mean, I would love it.
I'm curious how that side would react to it, because she's not straight or male or white.
They would react to it the same way they react to everything, with calm and measure. I'm just kidding. Darth Skeptical does agree that pineapple on pizza is correct. So you guys are banned.
You're a real one. Use a real one. My favorite pizza is pineapple, pepperoni, and jalapeno.
Listen, I will grant that there is conceptually something there with the sweet and savory. But in terms of pizza, like in terms of pure pizza flavor, that's not the move. But we agree to disagree.
Oh yeah.
Dang, Master James, he just exposed himself. It's the only way to eat pizza. No, it's not. You can have pepperoni, sausage, and bacon. That's another great way to eat pizza. Meat lovers.
Listen, there's no wrong way to eat pizza.
Yeah, but you know pizza's supposed to be savory. Entirely. That's why.
When it comes to food, I don't do supposed to be. You know what I mean? Because like, yeah, I can say, you know, spaghetti should be savory until you eat it at a Filipino's house and you're like, oh, this is delicious.
I wouldn't disagree with anybody who hates sweet spaghetti. It's only because of that damn banana sauce, that banana ketchup. I don't know what the Filipinos were trying to do.
And then Nigerian spaghetti is delicious as well, but it has this whole other thing that actually has more umami than any of the others.
Well, DePaul says no anchovies. That's the only wrong way. And then Woodsy says that's not true. You can 100% eat pizza wrong. My friend loves pickles on her pizza. I cannot.
You know, my family spent some time in Chile, and down there they had their own version of American pizza. And so my family was sending me pictures of it, and imagine a pizza with just full hot dogs, and like a design with just your full hot dogs and pickles and like mustard and lettuce and like just weird stuff just kind of strewn about there. It's just weird. So I suppose there are wrong ways to do it, but I just mean, when I'm cooking, there's two ways to look at it. And yes, I'll cook traditional meals the way they're intended all day, but also if I'm cooking and I say to myself, you know what, I want more textures in this, or I want more flavor profiles, or if I'm saying, you know what, this needs some form of sweetness in this meal, maybe it's not in this part of it, maybe it's in that part of it, or maybe it's, you know, a sweet vinaigrette sauce, or maybe it's here. Like, I feel like you can improvise a lot of ways that maybe was not in the original, but those originals were only the way that they are because of what was around them at that time, you know? Free your mind.
I listen. I'm gonna have to push back a little bit. I'm not going to put into the ether cooking with Jack. That guy tries to improvise and serves up bloody chicken. Like, it's not.
Well, that's different. That ain't.
Just watch Cooking with Jack. Just one video on YouTube, and you'll see that there is a wrong way to improvise.
Yes.
Also, I've
had my wife's
pizza.
cooking. But here's the thing, though: pickles on pizza. If you made it like almost like a deconstructed burger as a pizza, if you look at the pizza dough as bread, then it would be like making a burger. That's a flatbread burger, essentially.
But then again, I would not have pepperoni, sausage, or anything or any of that on it. I would literally be putting a burger on top of a pizza dough, like cheese.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Cheese, pizza sauce, a whole bunch of beef, and then you could put pickles on it. Yeah, but pickles, just one pickle on a slice.
Yeah, that sounds weird. I would taste it though. Supreme Leader asks, "What's the Dyad's spice tolerance?" My answer is yes.
I can eat a habanero. Like, I could bite into a habanero. What's weird is that I don't seek out spicy challenges, but whenever I've gotten spicy food and they have the pepper on the side, I endeavor to take a chunk out of it by the mouth.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not a pleasant experience. It's not like I bite into habaneros and I'm like, that's great. I love this so much. It's something I can handle. I'd say that's like where my threshold kind of lands, really. Jalapenos aren't really spicy. I know I wouldn't make
Jalapenos
it
either have zero spice or it's like that one that like
one
fell out of
seed.
Satan's asshole or something. And he's like, and you're
like I'll get like fried chicken, and sometimes they have the spice the jalapenos on it, and I'll take a chunk out of those. Like I'll eat them by the whole, and it's good. I'll get the jalapeno pepper flavor, and then there's one that has that rogue seed that's just like, oh god, what is that?
Ever since watching Brother's Son, man, I've been getting the 2x spicy noodles and just crushing them up in the bag. It's so good. it's surprisingly, it's a lot spicier that way. That's for sure. But it's very good.
I did watch
I suppose that's probably my spice tolerance limit is eating those raw like that. It's like, it's just that perfect of like, yeah.
DePaul says, damn, your cat got big, Choco.
Yeah, he's a nuisance. He still will climb up my body, and it hurts so bad.
How's it going, Nedrix? Darth Skeptical asks, when is the Skeleton Crew coming out? I feel like people are forgetting about that. No, it's just the Acolyte is taking up all of the mind share, really. When the marketing and the trailers come out for Skeleton Crew, we'll be on top of that too. I think they have a 25 release though, if I'm not mistaken. I think the next one is Andor Season 2, right? They wrapped that.
I don't know.
Ago.
I'm so well, but they wrapped Skeleton Crew a while ago too.
We'll see. Ace Rock says, hey guys, thanks for your work to improve the discourse. Keep it up. Appreciate that, Ace Rock.
Okay, Kitty, I'm gonna need you not to be on my keyboard. Alright. I have 2 keyboards out right now, and so it's you know, that's what I need. I need some sort of layers thing for my keyboards.
You know that I can never find one that is specifically for the keyboard that I have. But there's a whole bunch of like keyboard covers that's like hard plastic that you put on top as like a dust cover. but it never fits the keyboard that I have. So it just ends up not fitting and just hitting the keys.
Okay,
I'd like to give somebody a mold of my keyboard and have them 3D print a cover that I could just put on top of it.
Yeah. I also want to have someone print up a dead key for me, because I just pulled off my caps locks because it's unnecessary and it only makes me look like I'm yelling from time to time. But now I'm looking at my switches down there and I don't like it.
Yeah, I've never thought about that. That's so true. I never use caps lock. Even when I have to enter a string that's all caps for like some kind of redeem code, I never use caps lock. I hold shift the entire time. That's so weird. Let's see. I heard Skeleton Crew is using paintings like the original films. Anyone know if that's true? Nope. But the Acolyte's using ship models and stuff, so there's clearly a trend towards practical and old time techniques, classic techniques.
You know, I'm always just impressed at like the things that are able to use both. The things that can use both. The amount of like scheduling and preparation that requires, I think, is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of them you have to do, if you use the volume, you literally have to do everything beforehand. And then if you're doing it on the scene, you have to do everything afterwards. And that preference is just, I don't know, just weird.
Thank you, Andrew, for that. I'm going to need everyone to take a pause really quickly if you're on the YouTube side. Smash that like button. Prove that you were here. Otherwise, we're gonna call your parents and be like, I don't think you guys were here. So smash that like, and if you're on the TikTok side, like do the whole like thing we go like and just give the live as a bunch of likes.
Must be a hunt and pecker. No, not a hunt and pecker, but a gamer who is using WASD quite a bit. And when you're hitting A, sometimes you can clip that caps locks button, you know?
Yeah. Also, I didn't mean the heart in the chat. That's just live react. Smash the like button on the video. Podwans Luke says, what Plagueis reference did I miss? Okay, so you told me that you got the reference
to Paul.
Oh my gosh, that makes me think of Aztec Cross and how many times he falls for that stuff. In his latest video, he's like, someone was like, oh, the exotic class item comes from the Excision mission, but don't forget to get the Traveler's Chosen quest from Lee Gandhi. And he was reading it to his friends like, oh, we gotta do that now, we gotta go speak to Lee Gandhi. And then the next message was like, Lee Gandhi's nuts. You thought you did. Okay, so Luke, I'm gonna need you to put into chat what you think the Plagueis reference was, and then I'll let you know if you did indeed miss it.
Pookie asks, what's the best company to buy PC or PC parts from? I don't know. Tiger Direct? I don't know.
Oh, from. I thought you. So there's actually a bunch of SIs that you can buy directly from. So yeah. I love cases from NZXT. I also love their cooling components, and you can buy them from nzxt.com. But in general, I still kind of default to Newegg and Amazon if it's not on Newegg.
Yeah, I could build it on PC Parts Picker, and then I just find those parts as cheap as I can.
Yeah. I mean, that's essentially how you build a PC, is the parts picker, so you know everything's compatible. But Luke says, I honestly couldn't remember. Just tell me. All right. So Vernestra says, I'm afraid that May's master's plan is part. Wait, May is part of her master's larger plan. A plan that is difficult to see. A shift in the Force. One designed to tip the scales.
These are scales, and I'm tipping.
And if you remember in the Plagueis novel, a decade earlier from, I think, a decade earlier from, I guess it was
Phantom Menace.
The Phantom Menace. He says, he had tried to shift the Force in an effort to tip it towards the dark side.
Yeah.
And
so whenever you hear people talking about, no, Anakin was like the Force's reaction to them trying to create life, and they weren't trying to create life. They were trying to tip the scales of the Force. And they theorized that that was what led to Anakin's creation. But no, they weren't trying to create life.
well, I mean, they were having read it, having read it recently because I was tired of not having read it. It did say Plagueis had gone even further, and he wanted to will a being of his own design, to create life. But like again, like it doesn't. Their reaction to it was a theory and not necessarily confirmed. Like he wanted to sense Anakin. He's like, can I meet this kid? And then Anakin went to the Jedi Temple to get tested, and then Plagueis was like, God damn it. So he couldn't really confirm anything. Also when Sidious says, is it possible? I don't think he's saying, is it possible we created him? I think, is it possible, like, that this kid was fatherless and the Force created him? I mean, a lot of people will read that and be like, is Sidious implying that, is he asking, is it possible we created him? Like, no. I think he hears everything from Dooku and is like, is it possible? Is this possible? To be fatherless? So, yeah, that was the reference. Like, I don't know how you choose the words a shift and tip the scales and not be referencing the Plagueis novel. It could have been just a nod, but I feel like there has to be some kind of thread there to remain open for a Plagueis or Tenebris. And if we're thinking about the Coven's sorcery, in Plagueis had quote unquote many arguments with Tenebris on the usefulness of sorcery. And I think you were saying, yeah, that Tenebris was a technology guy.
Yeah.
And Plagueis was the one that was employing everything that he could to tip the said scales. So we'll see. I don't know if we're gonna see Plagueis or Tenebris. And on the Plagueis side, they'd have to retcon his age, but they could very well use that thread to kind of pay off the whole shift in the Force.
No.
Nedrex says, I want to applaud myself for liking on TikTok and typing this. Good job, Ned. Can I call you Ned?
I got Krista Vervecki saying, hi friends, are you getting as exhausted as I am? I've never been so tired to be a Star Wars fan as of right now. I feel that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not getting as exhausted. It might just be because I've kind of steeled myself for this kind of stuff, or I've grown accustomed to hearing about it. I know that the past events of the week have been truly disgusting. But at the same time, the Star Wars Twitter hashtag has been popping off on Twitter, and I've found like close to 100 more people to follow that love the Acolyte, that love the High Republic, And we have people like DJO, the developers of the Jedi games from Respawn. We have the developers of Outlaws coming out and participating in the Star Wars Twitter hashtag, and everybody in introducing themselves, sharing their Star Wars story, and, you know, sharing their passion for it. Darkness rises and light to meet it. I also think there are more of us. Like, truly, truly, truly. There are millions of fans that don't have a voice on Twitter, that don't create content on TikTok or even watch TikTok. They're just out there enjoying or not enjoying these shows and going on with their life. Some people just tune into the Acolyte every week, and however they feel about the episode that week, they end the episode and they go back to worrying about their work the next day. Like, I can't stress enough how many millions of people are out there that make up those billions of dollars that these movies make that are not on social media.
Oh, yeah. The vast, vast majority of them. It's interesting because, like, even right now, if you go on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a garbage website you should never use, but Rise of Skywalker, which you would think it was critically was panned by the whole fan base, is like at 88%. You know, like it has its fans. If you go out to the parks, if you meet people in public, if you go to a Star Wars Celebration, or not even just Celebration, any con around, the conversations in real life, unless they're with a small subsection, are usually pretty chill, usually pretty positive. If you're a man, but yeah, there's for sure more of us. That's why they have to rage downvote stuff. That's why they have to bring all this hate outwards, because if they don't do it, no one will notice and no one will care.
That's the biggest tell right there, is that a show cannot fail in the ratings without a campaign to bomb it. Like, if you think for 1 minute, if they actually allowed nature to take its course and allowed regular people to watch these shows and leave their honest feedback, none of these shows would be as low as if they bombed it. And that's the real kicker for anyone who thinks they're in the majority and thinks that if you're a real Star Wars fans, you hate this, is that none of these shows would be lowly, like, it wouldn't be low in ratings on any aggregate without their campaigns. And that's why, because they didn't bomb the sequels, they have better ratings than the prequels. Aggregate.
And Yuhu in my chat mentioned, like, Theory's been all over his FYP because of the rage bait and all this stuff. And yeah, I mean, I've spoken to Theory and stuff in the past. He unfollowed me a long time ago, but he's saying, like, oh, well, he's not allowed to say anything about him in my chat. That's fine. I don't care. Honestly, I don't think about him very often. He honestly doesn't come up in my feeds very frequently at all. It's usually one of my mutuals, who is pointing out something really dumb that was just said. And that's the other thing, is depending on where you're talking and who you're having the conversations with, you may not run into that stuff anymore. So that's the other reason why they have to attack. Otherwise, we will never see them.
Yeah. He is how I discovered you, Choco. So if there's one good thing I can say about him.
Well, I appreciate it. I can tell you, the moment that he actually, like, unfriended me, unfollowed me, and all this stuff, I at least think that's kind of funny. This was back during... Yeah, well, it was back during Star Wars Celebration in London, when we had Jodie Turner-Smith have her part. Actually, no, it was well after that because we had already engaged in the discourse around it. And then when he found out about it, that's the one where she was asked, "Tell us about your character in the Acolyte," and she said, "My character is a powerful woman in a world of women." And it was really refreshing because Star Wars is mostly a patriarchy. Now, I heard this and I was like, oh, word? Is she like a Night Sister? Turns out she's a witch and from a coven of witches because she was explaining her character. Anyways, people were... he took it as an attack on the patriarchy in Star Wars and no, Leia exists and Padme exists, therefore there is... Ayla Secure exists, therefore there is no patriarchy. And like, she was describing her character. And we know that now that we've seen it, right? I mean, I was essentially right. And B, the existence of women don't disprove patriarchy. Literally, patriarchy means rule of the father. If you live in a society where the man is typically the head of the household, you live in a patriarchy. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing. There are bad things about it that hurt both men and women. Anyways, I pointed that out. He got mad, blocked me on everything.
It just goes to show you, he only keeps around an echo chamber. I mean, Choco and I have disagreed on a lot of things, but we're still pals. We're still the Dyad, and I've disagreed with a lot of people who are in this community. I'm friends with people who despise Yoda, and he's my favorite. But I'm not gonna block someone for I don't know. It's petty, really. And I've endeavored to stop calling him Theory. His name is Chet. Thank you to Stygian Siren for that. Because he has none. He hasn't had a theory since 2014. But to long and short, that's why I don't really talk about him and stuff on here. I don't see a reason to. I don't see any benefit to it. He doesn't like canon Star Wars. That's okay. He doesn't read the canon books. Doesn't read the canon comics. Doesn't like the High Republic. He's not going to have anything of any merit to say about a canon TV show set in the High Republic. Yeah.
So,
shout out to Cal4, a good friend of the channel on the chat. Element and I constantly disagree. Sometimes we have some heated arguments too, but we can get past that. We're actually adults.
Cal, did you watch this week's episode of Kaiju number 8? Woo! Woo!
Oh, don't you mean Jew number 8?
Listen, that was some unfortunate editing, and I apologize.
Boba Fett says, like a toddler doing the wrong thing for mom's attention. Yes. Precisely.
That's a good way to put it. And unfortunately, and it does break my heart because I have my criticisms that we talk about. A lot of people have valid criticisms and we want to have great conversations, but there's a toddler screaming on the floor and we can't talk until that's what it feels like.
Woodsy says, who hates Yoda? I mean, a lot of people. I'm not gonna like do a false equivalence with, there's a lot of people who hate Rey, but it's everyone's got their own favorites and everyone's got their own villains. I try my best to be a Yoda apologist, but at the end of the day, I'm not gonna swing any voters.
Yeah. And we don't need to point out which ones don't like Yoda. We don't need to name drop people, Alanis. It's not necessary.
Actually, Kenny said something earlier that I missed. I did clock it though. But he's been meaning to do a name change from Darthman 86 to Hunter Kenkari. Been promoting Star Wars Hunters for 3 weeks now. Might as well take the name. What do y'all think? Whatever you think it. You know.
Who's your main on Hunters? I'm curious. I thought you were gonna name yourself after your Jedi character. His name was Kevin, right?
It's Choco. He doesn't like Yoda. Get him? No, Choco has. I think he's ambivalent towards Yoda. I don't know.
No, I actually love Yoda, but he's not my favorite.
Actually, Kenny, I would. My suggestion would be something a little bit more agnostic. I would just go by Star Wars Kenny. Like you can promote Hunters while being Star Wars Kenny, and talk about other things. I like brand agnostic or topic agnostic names.
Do you think there's a bit of canon that should be broken that would make Star Wars better? That's a fantastic question. I think that question deserves some straight up videos.
That's a tough one too, because as an adherent to canon, like I've never really kind of been like that shouldn't be canon. Interesting. Coleman Trevor shouldn't be canon. Just saying. Ooh, Boo has said Avar Chris, as in Chris. I love Boba Fett though, but you're right. I mean, it would go towards Christine. I don't know. Boba Fett has always been like, that's how I know you.
They're both accurate.
Yeah.
Also, Christine, if you ever want to come up here and talk stuff, let us know. We're more than happy to bring you on.
Absolutely.
Who says the sequels to me are like what the Hobbit trilogy is to Lord of the Rings. I haven't seen the Hobbit trilogy. Hey, but it does seem weird to me that the Hobbit is a trilogy.
Do we need to watch along for that?
Perhaps.
I have a better schedule now, so I'd love to. Thank you. Absolutely. Let's.
I've been forced into being a Sora main on Hunters. Okay.
So
nice.
just to kind of gauge interest here, Christine, would you rather come on for a transitional episode, or would you like to come on for the finale discussion? Let me know. Damn, we got everybody second guessing their names. DePaul coming out. Man, me too. Jedi Master DePaul is just so cliche. Like, okay, I mean, y'all chose them.
That phrase just gets into my skin. I feel like nothing breaks canon; it just grows the universe, which is a good way to look at it. I mean, so Star Wars is a loose magic system, right? Stuff happens because the Force ends up being a Deus Ex Machina. It can do just about anything, depending on the story and the context. So you're definitely not wrong. I do like having a structure for rules. I think that's the expanded universe got a little bit messy with things like Jason Solo would what was it called? I want to say Force Walk, but that's not what it was called. But basically would walk into the past and watch the events from the movies, and it was just a way to tie it in with like the prequels, where he went back in time and watched Anakin march on the Jedi Temple.
Was it like
and then they made it
Light Stride or something?
I can't remember, but like his presence there in the past even got felt by the Jedi then, and I'm like, no, we're not doing that. No, absolutely not. We're not doing flow walking. It's like, yeah, we're not doing Attack on Titan stuff where you learn things about the past through your future self because you both had the same. Like, no. Don't like it at all.
Palpatine's son with lightsaber limbs was where I went, huh? That's true.
Triclops?
Yuuzhan Vong for the win. There's a lot.
I know that was Chris. I know it was Chris.
No, that was Master James Kenobi. Finale? Okay, we'll have you on for episode 8. Cool beans. Xanatos says, I've been Xanatos 1138 for like 20 years, man. I can't change it. Yes, you can. And you will, because I keep on calling you David Xanatos from Gargoyles.
Listen, I was Darth Chocolate for like 10 years. Got the TikTok. Chocolate was taken. And now I'm Darth Choco.
Jedi Smart, what's going on, Malik? Welcome to the show.
Nice to see you. Been a minute.
Nedrex says, I'm Cal Kestis. All right, well, there goes that debate. Over. He's Cal Kestis.
All
I
right.
just thought it was so, it's so like matter of fact in a sea of like other things. It's like, gotcha.
Okay, I gotta ask. This episode of this episode of Dyad and the
Choco?
Force. We haven't talked about anything, have we?
No, we're strictly in the lore section right now, but we can force things. It depends, you know. These shows are designed for us to talk to other fans, you know.
No. Hey, Scotty Holiday, how's it going?
Can't believe I never knew this was a thing. My 2 favorite Star Wars content creators. Appreciate that, Kyle. But yeah, every week at 5 p.m. Pacific on Saturday is Dyad and the Force.
Supreme Leader said for the thing that they would change in Star Wars canon, that they would make a Spice Bush Light. I love it. I love just like tweaking one thing, and then you're like, when people are like high on spice, no, they're just drunk on Bush Light.
I love the natural flow of the show and how you interact with viewers. I mean, that was the whole point of the show to begin with. As soon as we went live from offline recording, we wanted to have discussions with people who were chatting and bring people on too.
Darth Invictus says, I'm Darth. So I'm sorry. Pete in my chat says, I'm Darth Invictus on X. So I'll definitely have to make sure, but once you come on sometime, which, yeah, absolutely.
Darth Invictus, yeah. Add us at on Twitter. Hashtag. Let's try to make our hashtag trend. Hashtag.
Stuff says, I would probably drop the world between worlds. Time travel opens up things too much. I get that. I mean, I still don't. I would force like Dave to like set some ironclad rules for the for the world between worlds, because it's not time travel just yet. But it's time travel-ish. It's time is what Dave says.
Time observation, really. And you can't really go to and fro from portal to portal, affecting time.
It does make things messy though, like people's entrance to it. But I like to think about it is the one step beyond hyperspace. You know what I mean? Like if you have that's where you hit like
the toll road,
6th or 7th dimension type things.
Yeah. Malik says I would remove Markion Ro's clothes. Well, luckily you don't have to affect canon to do that, Malik. just like how I approach Domina. Things are best left in the theater of the mind.
Okay, and I now have my answer. All of us on from this community would be canon in Star Wars. That's the change I would make. You would just toss us in there. So at any given time, at any story, no one's main characters, but at any given story, someone like steps into a cantina, and then like they're having a Busch Light
or Corona Classic
with Supreme Leader in my chat.
Matthew Torres says, "Well, if it ain't the two most handsome Jedi." Oh, thank you, and Yoda appreciates it too.
Hey.
Oh,
I was like,
and Choco?
still in Geos? Where? Oh.
If I could change one thing,
there.
Ewoks would
sad.
all talk. Danny DeVito should voice Wicket. Oh man,
Oh,
I'm
no.
trying to think of my impression of that now. Like, that's our golden god. The golden god. His name's C-3PO. I don't know. I can't do DeVito.
I'm just picturing, like, especially the celebration after it, when there's like, so anyways, I start blasting them. And you're like, and then my buddy came in like Tarzan. I'm starting to verge on Gilbert Gottfried, so I'm gonna pull back a little bit. But
that context came after I read Christine's sentence, which reads, "So anyway, I started blasting," and that just came out of left field for me. The Golden God. Satele Shan solos? Yeah, absolutely. She is my absolute favorite of all of Star Wars.
Glenn Howerton for young Palpatine. The bone structure? I mean, are you only thinking about him because you saying the word Golden God?
Yeah.
He's got like an intense. He's very tall though. I think, right? Isn't he very tall? Let's shoot him with low angles.
How tall is he? 5'10". No.
Okay, no. I guess he's always with Danny DeVito, so he seems tall. Remember when Lumia projected dark side versions of Luke, Ben, Mara Jade, and Anakin to each other? Yeah, I remember that. That was weird.
Trelly, you love Satele Shan? Keep going, Choco.
Legends had some interesting things. The thing that kills me though is that like Force illusions would be so freaking powerful in Star Wars, and they could just kind of toss them out there. So like in Legends, you would be, I want to say it's a Millennium Falcon book, or maybe it's the Luke Skywalker book. Anyways, they're being chased, so he makes a Force vision, which is he creates a little Millennium Falcon like in the middle of it, and then grows it until it's outside of the actual ship, and then creates a veil of darkness. And so he makes people chase the fake Millennium Falcon that he's controlling with the Force while they head into the other direction. And I was like, it's silly. And if you could do that, you would never lose a fight. I would just project myself like 2 feet to the right of where I am, and then you would never beat me in a fight.
Trelly, this is for you if you can hear me. You love Satele Shan? Level up sabers.
Yes, it's gorgeous. Look at that.
I have the other hilt here, but I am one-handed in this operation of carrying the case. But yeah, check out dyadintheforce.com/lightsabers.
Pete says, I hate the Vong in Legends. I know people love Vong, but they're OP and boring. I agree. I hate them. They're disgusting. They would smell really bad. And also, it weirds me out that they'll just like throw a bunch of bugs at you. Are Force Solutions canon due to The Last Jedi? I wouldn't call that a projection, at least not in the same way. I mean, he did project himself. Or sorry, there's a Force projection, not an illusion. It's not making someone see different stuff. And the amount of effort it took was also massive. So at least they put a cap on like how far you could go with it. which is also really good.
I want a modified version of the Vong, but as an Aztec stan, I'm biased. How would that modification version be? Like, would it be an Aztec kind of analog? Take care, Booba, or Avar Chris.
Let's see. What if the Force illusion was the friends we made along the way? That's sad. Never mind. I love it. I don't like that they were cut off for the Force for being naughty. Yeah, so the Vong were overpowered until they just weren't. That was the thing that bugged me in the books, is they were like unbeatable, and then everyone just like was like, why don't we just try harder? And then they did, and then they beat them, and there was no like impetus for the increase in effectiveness. They just got better or something.
Yeah. All right, we're for appearance's sake, we're gonna move on to the Acolyte, but I feel like we're in a good flow with the chat. But if there's any thoughts that people want to discuss about episode 4, you're free to do so. I think in general, my only thought really is just it's kind of a weak episode, but it ended anime style, of course, with the Darksider. I'm a complete subscriber to Chimere Occam's Razor, Darth Razor. I think it is easy, yes, but I think it's easy because that's not the real mystery. And I going off of what has been the case for Acolyte so far, has been revealing something, but also that's not what we were looking for. So revealing the Jedi killer, revealing what happened 16 years ago, and the next episode 5 probably revealing the identity of that person. I don't think that's the real reveal.
Let me tell you what's going to happen. All right. This is my theory hat.
Really quickly. Malik says it felt like a half an episode. This is what I take issue with Lucasfilm on. This is a legitimate criticism. The writer came out and said that was filmed as one episode, and because they needed to adhere to an episode count, Lucasfilm made them, or Disney, I don't know who, but Lucasfilm said they needed to cut that episode in half.
Yeah.
So it's not an excuse for the episode to, I'm not giving them a pass because, oh, it was supposed to be one episode, but that's why it feels the way it does. And I feel like it's wrong. Like you gotta give them the room to tell their story.
Because if that was done that way, then they needed to do more in the episode, and that's how episodes work, right? So like if they had taken that episode and they stretched it, maybe the trek through the wilderness was as perilous as they were saying the whole time. The people who went in, they haven't come out yet and stuff like that. We got the flying bug thing and we got to see them, but what I imagine happening in an episode is, she touches it and it opens up like it did and attacks, and then all of a sudden all of them start opening up, and now you know how big and scary that one is. And then they have to run and chase, and then they get to bond and develop their relationships with each other through this whole mess. And you have like a much more fulfilling episode. You can have a lot more things, you know what I mean? You could develop Yord a lot more, because he told her like, no, I'm being this way because we essentially have a civilian along here with us, and I have to take care of you. I'm responsible for your survival. That's why I'm being strict or harsh or whatever. We could actually see that play out in action, right? There's so much more that they could have done had they come into that intentionally being a full episode. That's the thing that bothered me.
Another thing before you get into your spin tinfoil hat theory. As an Asian American, how does it feel to knowing we'll have a bunch of Chimere cosplayers? It feels great, but also as a Filipino, because he's Filipino. It feels even better. It feels even better. Also, I don't know if it's a Filipino thing, but he's rocking the same facial hair as me. I can cosplay Chimere. I can mess up my hair right now. Well, I don't. This side I cut short intentionally, so I don't have to deal with the sweep. But if I were to grow out this side, I can cosplay Chimere, and that's what I love about, you know, someone being Filipino but also looks like me. You know, you always say, when it comes to representation and diversity, we don't want to fill slots. We want characters that we can relate to, see ourselves in, and be proud of. And this is why I always say, like, I don't care if like an Asian is in the background just because he's there. Like, now I have a character apart from Axel Greylark that I can cosplay, that I can see myself in and relate to. So it feels great.
Yeah. And I've said it once, I'll say it again. Diversity is never forced. If you make an open casting call for anyone who can play Jedi, do you think it's only white people that's going to show up? and if you only hire one race, isn't that what's forced? You know? I don't know. Anyways. My theory, my tinfoil hat theory that I've been saying is two foil.
It's two foil.
I didn't even mean to say that.
No, you are.
My body has gotten so used to making puns that it just does it by itself.
If you look at it as a pun, that's a great
okay.
one.
I know, right? I wish I could play it off better. Okay, my theory is twofold. One, I think it might be interesting if the actual Sith Lord, if the Acolyte, or if Darth Teeth specifically is the helmet possessed of a dark side user from the past. They may or may not be Sith. Darth Momin was a Sith. Exum Panchard was not. It was a dark side user, a person. It was a viceroy. Either way, they were both trying to find a way to bring themselves back, and they both needed a force sensitive body to wear the helmet to live up to what they needed it to do, right? And so if you have that happen, then you can actually make a lot of sense of most things. Maybe this whole entire witch coven is a creation worshiping this individual, this dark side individual, and their experiments, their magic is actually meant to bring him back, right? Rather than having these two girls as like a false dyad, you have one of them as you have them were intending to be the heir. The people who would wear the person that would wear the ass, you ended up with two of them, so now you have an heir and a spare, and that's why. And I say was happy one of them got to leave off, right? Chimere couldn't not be him, but knows he has to put on the mask, and then that is him that takes over. And I kind of like this because it felt like the movements were a little unnatural, which I really liked. The other thing I want is for Chimere to actually be the Sith Apprentice, right? So you have it so that this is the dark side person that we're all after, and then at the end of the day, at the end of the episode, whatever Darth Teeth does, boom, lightsaber through the chest, and it's Chimere, and he with an evil snarl is like, my master and I have watched your machinations from afar. We were interested in your experiments, but now that you've gotten the Jedi involved, you've tipped your hand, and we can't allow you to live. And he cuts him down, and then he pieces out, right? That ties up everything. The Jedi can show up and take into custody, the Sith is dead. We don't have to worry about it. You can also have the cover-up angle of, like, we don't know what killed the Sith, but the problem has been resolved. So what is there to complain about? We don't have any more questions or really leads that can go anywhere. If it is the helmet that is in control, they can take that and lock it up. And any Jedi that was involved, that would be covered up. You know why? Because while they would feel horribly guilty for what happened while they were wearing the helmet, they're ultimately not responsible. I think you could tie up everything with these kind of things,
Yeah. No, I'm behind that theory as well. We have all of the precedents.
This is very uncomfortable to wear, by the way.
Also, what hat is your tinfoil hat? Is it your Pikachu?
It's actually my Venom hat now. Before it was its own hat. I molded it over a hat, took it off, refilmed it, and then made its own thing. But it wouldn't. It started being problematic. I'm gonna have to make a full legit tinfoil hat.
Yeah. Emily says, where was the helmet when May and Chimera were on that trek? He didn't have any bag. He did have a huge bag.
He had a big ass bag.
Bulbous. If you watch
May
the
could have
scene,
climbed in the bag. That's how big it was.
if you watch the scene where they land for the first time and talking about how he's been in the forest and he knows the way. He's got a bulbous bag. So that's like, I posted on Twitter a picture of all of my kind of points. And that was one of my points. Like, that's more than a canteen. There's extra clothes, an extra robe in there to throw on top of himself. There's a helmet in there. That we saw like three massive Camtonos. One of them held obviously May's stuff and bags, and then another one held Chimera's bag, but it was ginormous and bulging. But I like that theory a lot. A lot of precedent with it.
Someone said that Choco's no longer safe from the brainwaves. Much like Fry on Futurama, I'm actually immune because I have no Zeta waves. Because I am my own grandfather. Yes.
Interesting.
I did the nasty and the pasty.
Jesus. Scotty Holiday, welcome to Dyad in the Forest. Asks, who do y'all think is on the chopping block for the Jedi? Well, let's get this out of the way. The B tier Jedi that are just all there. That's besides Jecki, Yord, and Soul. They're all gone.
All dead. All dead. For sure dead. I remember watching Ahsoka when the X-Wing is all mounted up, and I was like, who's that? Who's that? Oh, it doesn't matter. Okay.
The NPCs, so to speak.
Cool.
So for sure, those guys are goners. I did see some kind of some shots from the next episode. It looks like Soul is worse for wear, but I don't think any of them are going to bite the dust right just now. Actually, I think I'm going to go on the record and say Soul, Jecki, and Yord survive this. But just like Choco's theory, there's going to be a story reason why they don't think it's a Sith.
Yeah. First of all, no one better touch Jecki because she's the best. Jecki is bestie. That being said, yeah, I think everyone else is on the chopping block. But I don't think, like Yord, I can't see. I think Yord is out of the order after what happens here.
Now, does he leave or does he take a vow?
He leaves and opens up a dry cleaner because
Yord's Korean.
I think so. What's going to happen? And you heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first. Darth Teeth is going to take Osha with him, leaving May with the rest of the Jedi. He's going to decimate most of the Jedi, right? So now it's going to be May, Jackie, Yord, and Sol. And Yord is going to want to take May in, right? Because she is a murderer. She killed people. That has happened. And Souls isn't going to let him. Souls going to stand up and say, no, she's the only chance we have to get Osha back. And so they're going to have a fight. And then they're going to have to, like, they're going to scuffle. They're going to leave Yord. They're going to leave Yord on the planet. Or lock him in the brig.
That's so cruel. I can't be a Jedi anymore. And then they're just like, all right, you stay here.
They're gonna have to find some way to stop him, and then he's gonna run to the Jedi to say they're doing this and it's a bad thing, and so he's gonna be the impetus for Vernestra showing up.
Watch your language.
And then
watch your profanity.
Yeah, that's all. That's all I'm saying for now.
I think either one of the twins will die. I'm not so sure about that. There's a possibility, but I do think that they both survive and they both find their own path away from the Jedi
and away from the path, because
Yeah.
that won't be founded for 100 years.
Genuine question: how many Jedi do you think Smilo's gonna kill? Okay, so there's Kelnaka. There's that guy who I can't see him. That guy.
There's we have Plo Koon at home.
There's he has a name, but yeah. There's
Yeah,
the Plo
I
Koon.
forget it.
There's the Asian lady beside Jackie, and then there's another B tier Jedi next to the Asian lady. So there's at least 5 casualties from Smilo. I really thought Darth Teeth was going to kill Osha when they ignited that lightsaber. I think so. We may disagree on this. I don't know. I don't remember what Choco thinks. But I think that in that moment, Darth Teeth sensed that Osha was more powerful than May. And realized he needed to take her. And that's where the twins... That's where.
Listen, I wasn't planning for us to go this long. I was standing the whole time.
I was just thinking about an SNL skit where I think they were like lowering and it was just really slow. But that's where the twin swap happens. He takes Osha and May is stuck with the Jedi. The rise of Darth Choco.
And also, so that is what I think. But something you had said previously did pique my interest as well, because he can sense that she's more powerful. He's gonna take her, and he's gonna be like, "Show me your true power," and then she won't be able to do it, because it's when they're actually together that they resonate, their auras resonate or something, and they're more powerful. Because the power of one, the power of two, the power of many.
Yeah, that's true. It's one of my kind of like more fringe theories of the Acolyte. I think the twins have a parasitic relationship rather than a bond twin relationship, and I think that as Osha left the Order, May got stronger. And she was training and kind of siphoned, or as it were in Legends, severed Osha's connection to the Force. And that's why she couldn't really get down with grabbing Pip with the Force then. But as soon as she lands on Kofar, she's like, I can feel again. I sense this Umbra Moth. And she's not really using the Force. So the fact that it kind of innately came back felt like when they're in each other's presence, like that connection gets restored.
Yeah. It's gonna be May.
I do think they're all dying in the next episode. Those B-level Jedi. There's no way you can get around it. If I get mad at anything in this show, it's if a red lightsaber is ignited and no one dies. Kelnock is already dead, so he's not part of that scenario. Because they're all gonna attack him and try to protect Osha, which means someone's going to get got.
Can I say something weird? I don't know. And it's fine. It doesn't break canon or anything. It bugs me when people ignite their lightsabers for no reason other than I want to show the audience that this is cool. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just a whole side thing.
Which brings me to my another quick just kind of like when Soul ignited it and he's like, I have this, and then it's just cutting down the Umber Moth. I was like, that was a little unnecessary. John Wick. He tried to John Wick when it wasn't a John Wick situation.
What was I gonna say? Okay, yeah, no. My theory, as far as the girls using the Force specifically, is that when each of them uses it, they're at like a 3 out of 10. And when they're together, they become like a 7 out of 10.
So more powerful than Anakin.
Yes, I want
we
everyone.
know we're gonna get those complaints.
Everyone, as long as they're not, a cis white male, can be more powerful than Anakin. That's what I want in Star Wars, specifically.
What if Teeth's helmet is somehow connected to the Knights of Ren? It looks super Knights of Ren. That's another thing. I posted the clues to Chimere on TikTok. The platform I'm on currently. And the caption says Chimere is the first Ren / the Acolyte. So I'm covering my bases here. I think because the Knights of Ren do in fact have some association with the Sith.
Yeah, that's true. That could be how they meet for the first time.
But then again, that's just a theory.
Let's see. It was pointed out by someone that that the smile from Darth Teeth is reminiscent of the artwork for what's her face, Abeloth. You think there's any
Relax.
any connection?
Enhance your calm, people. Abeloth doesn't exist. I'm not putting that thought into the ether surrounding Acolyte.
Nedrick says the teeth are too round. No, he just eats more grains and nuts. He's not he's not carnivorous. That's why.
Did you have you done any of the missions on Nessus?
I've started to, but I'm not super far into it.
Did you fight the Mind Goblin?
No.
Mind Goblin these nuts. Abeloth might be the only thing from Legends I actually despise. Yes.
Okay.
That's lore,
yes.
That's lore breaking. That breaks the Force.
That's true. That's another character where when they finally beat her, there was no reason that would make any sense. Yeah. Let's see. The Knights of Ren are a competitive breakdance troupe. It all makes sense now. That's true. That's true.
You say that because he's Filipino?
No, that's his character origin in The Good Place. You gotta watch A Good Place. It's fantastic.
Manny Jacinto is in there?
Oh, yeah. He's he's amazing.
Okay. I mean, I'm sitting on 5 flawless wins in trials. And that was largely due to me putting on trials and listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson respond to Terence Howard. And I feel like that white noise puts me in the zone. Someone with expertise shooting down someone. I love this quote because this quote applies to the Star Wars fandom, specifically the Menace. You can know enough about a thing to think that you're right, but not know enough to know you're wrong. That is the greatest challenge.
That's what I've been trying to say.
So people think that they know so much about Star Wars that they think they're right, not know enough to know when they're wrong. And that's how we have people being like, this breaks canon. And us going, did you know?
And then cite legends.
The great many challenges of humanity. I mean, it goes hand in hand with the quote, like, there's always someone smarter in the room. Like, what was the other quote? If you're the smartest person in the room, leave.
Let's see here. Do you think the Ascension ritual did something to their Force connection? I don't recall them spinning an arc staff over their head as they flew up in the sky, jolting people.
Damn, we're gonna turn this into a Destiny stream.
So best to leave Abeloth and Legends, but we need Talon Card. So some characters from Legends we do need. Talon Card for sure. General Bel Iblis. I can't say his name.
I don't know who you're talking about with 3.
Mirax's dad. The person who has the errant venture. Come on. His ship is it's a Star Destroyer turned into a casino.
Oh fuck.
Anyways, yeah, bring him in as well, and also give me my Bothans back. You know what I mean? Like I love how much I hate them. And the duels that he had, like, mentally. Supremo says Ando Honaka. No,
what was the statement before you tried to answer that question?
Oh, was St. Pat saying, do you think the Ascension ritual did something to their Force connection?
Yes.
With May being the only one who did it.
That struck me funny because all I could think of were those televangelists. Like that scene,
healed.
Yeah, that scene it looked like something mystical was happening, and then like all of a sudden she went into their face, and she's like, "Oh, I feel ascended." It's like, what? You're ascended. The power of many.
Borscht Phalia is who I'm thinking of. He's the Bothan.
I was nowhere near that.
And he's garbage. but he's still the best. Yes. Finito, I'm still live. We normally don't go this long, but man, we've just been having fun and
yeah.
And I still got more theories.
More theories than Chet. Xanatos says even before the ceremony they can't use the Force at the same time. That's true. At the Bunta tree. She's having trouble with the bug. And then Osha came in. And then started doing some stuff with the bug. So there's a lot of. It may not be like they can't both use it at the same time, but I'm subscribed to the parasitic nature of it. Yeah, the Errant Venture. That was the name of the ship.
Is there a guy who owns the Bunta tree, and does he drive a Subaru 22B?
Yes. He smokes chronically.
And he abuses his child constantly, and we're supposed to just like be like, yo, it's tough love, I guess.
That'd be funny if the poison from the Bunta tree was just a small cube of silk tofu. Have this. This comes from the Bunta. Which Bunta tree? The Fujiwara.
Chet Severin asks, Choco, what bet did you lose? No, these are just my hats. I was feeling fancy.
You make me feel fancy, special. Sorry, wrong one. It's fancy. Ooh. KG asks, I don't know why Choco losing a hat made me chuckle so hard. That's because we're natural comedians. It's Kalnaka last week. It's Honaka this week. Should I knock on wood to end this streak? Yes.
Was that supposed to rhyme? That was weird. It turned into a weird poem.
I mean, presumably. Wait, we're getting an unhatting reveal? Head reveal. Head reveal at 20,000 subscribers.
There is no head.
You know what? The funny thing is, the video that comes to mind when I think of having seen your head is the OnlyFans one. You're like, OnlyFans? And then you do the whole transition. That was some classic Choco.
Yeah. That was early in the pandemic. I was in a lot better shape then.
What song did you use? I remember.
Oh, I can't remember.
Was it like Talk Dirty to Me?
No,
like,
I wish.
And then like the transition, and then you took off the shirt, and then all I can remember is like Talk Dirty to Me.
Listen, that Hanji cosplayer owns Talk Dirty to Me. No one. Yeah.
All right. Is
No
there
one can take
anything?
that.
Is there any other things that we could talk about with episode 4 of the Acolyte? Should we move on to any hot takes that you guys have? I think we've covered it mostly.
Yeah, I mean the last thing is that I've seen complaints that that May's turn to being good was too quick. Adverbs, am I right? I don't think so. I mean, she was in a situation where she's like in this weird cult that will murder her if she doesn't do exactly what they want. And she's like, the only reason I joined was because of what happened to my sister, and she's fine. So why am I here? It made perfect sense to me, especially how the episode began. Because when it began, she was like, oh, she became one of those like dirty Jedi, and I have to kill her or whatever. And that just makes sense, right? Because your focus determines your reality. If the Darth Teeth has spent time just making her go against the Jedi that took everything from you, they're the worst, they're the problem with the galaxy, you need to destroy them, you need to kill them, then that becomes top of mind. And then it takes time to stop and think about it and realize, oh, that's actually not what my goal is. It's kind of like the people we talk to when you can be mad at, like, oh no, they ruined Kiademuni's birthday. Oh, and you're mad, and you're like, he didn't have a canon birthday, and it's nebulous, and it also doesn't affect the story at all. And then I guess that makes sense. And then they can turn over a new leaf if they were in good faith at the beginning. It's just what you do when you make a new decision based off of new information. Makes sense to me.
While you're here having a profound thought, the chat spamming Choco Pogs so that the screen and the stream would bounce around the emojis.
more.
I will say, I disagree. Only in the sense that... So, I think it's a matter of semantics. I think that it makes sense that she made a turn, but it was still too sudden. So for example, she went from, I'm about to fight a Wookiee. And she did say, I don't have to do this. Like, this is impossible. But, like, we went from that scene of her getting ready to fight to her, like, you know what? I don't have to do this. So, rather than too quick, it was sudden. I would have liked to see an additional conversation being had of more doubts that led to it, rather than being like, I'm gonna go get you some water, and then she traps him and he's like, yeah, nah, I'm not doing this. So not quick, but sudden to me.
Yeah, I mean, I factored in her not killing the bartender with his
Yeah,
kid.
that's why it makes sense.
Of like, she doesn't want to kill, and if there's another way, she'll probably take it. You can definitely say sudden. I don't think that scene was acted well, and that's my bigger problem. But yeah.
Do you like Star Wars theory? I like theories of Star Wars. That's where that sentence is going to stop. I hate Chet, though. Yeah. Other than that, though, I mean, like, the dialogue from the B-level Jedi, Jedi Master Tormund, like, there's a whole, like, there's like Holden. There's a whole bunch of Jedi on screen now, and none of them matter. And that means they can phone in their delivery. Like, even Ki-Adi-Mundi was kind of like, oh. Just didn't... Like, I think someone earlier in the pre-show said Ki-Adi-Mundi didn't have the same gravitas. And I was like, that might be because the actor is old now, but he didn't really have much to work with either.
Yeah.
But yeah, the mystery is still there. That's what we're invested in. We're invested in the story as a whole. And there will be moments in this show that just don't really land for us. And that's where our criticisms will lie. But the show is still, the show and its story and the overall mystery is still, it still eludes us. And that's something that we're interested in. And that's what it'll continue to be until the season ends. I like Star Wars theory, but I believe he can be too rigid with his thinking at times. Sure. I mean, you know, blocking someone for correcting you, and threatening legal suit for Twitter shade. To me, that's more than rigid. That's just kind of unreasonable at that point.
Yeah. I think if you don't like the show, you probably shouldn't watch it. If you don't like the High Republic, if you don't like canon, then you should probably... That's okay.
Yep.
You know, but if you're inflammatory, reactionary, and don't have the journalistic integrity to verify your information, you could end up in a situation where false information that you spread ends up galvanizing people and acting as fuel and ammo for them to attack other people. And yeah, you can definitely say, you know, I didn't attack anyone, I didn't ask them to attack anyone, but there's certainly going to be some culpability there. So it is what it is. You know, watch who you want to watch. Talk about Star Wars as much as you want to. Just, I want to have meaningful discussions about it. I want to have, you know.
Yeah. That's all we want. Even if you don't like the Acolyte, I'm sure there's some things that we can have a conversation about. Problem is when you hate it so bad. I got a comment on my latest video that said, haha, I I watched the show while drunk just for laughs. That's how bad it is. I wanted to reply to it. I wasn't going to give him any time. It's not worth it. But, you know, it's great. Alcoholism suits you. But, like...
I mean, to them, I would say, thank you. You ensure that more shows like this get made. So, yeah. I appreciate that.
That's another thing. If you guys are hate watching, you guys are shilling a lot more than any of us will ever legitimately be shilling. Like, you freely give them their money out of spite.
It's like the people that were mad at Bud Light, and so they went and bought cases of Bud Light and shot them. And you're like, they don't care if you drink it or like,
they still made their buck, you know what I mean? And also that comment, that doesn't mean the show was so bad you drank. You're drinking, and that means that's why it's bad, because you're not actually watching it. Getting drunk. That's why I always say, if you start with the conclusion, your arguments towards that premise is always going to inform and affirm, but you should never start with the conclusion. You start with the hypothesis and try to prove yourself wrong. And if it doesn't play out, then you have a solid conclusion.
Yeah. Now, do we have any hot takes?
Let's see. Anybody in the chat have hot takes? As we wind down for the end of this episode. My hot take, as New Jeans plays in lo-fi, my hot take has something to do with the Coven. Oh, I think I said this already. Yeah, I think that was either last week or the week before. I said people need to stop loving the Coven at first sight. Like, they're quick to exonerate them of all wrongdoing, but you just met them. But I think I said that already.
But they were nice.
Anastasia. Like I said to everybody who does this whole kind of monolithic generalization, like, the Jedi have their flaws. The Jedi have their hubris. But the Jedi also are not evil because another Jedi was evil. You know what I mean? Like, there was another comment, I think, on your video or something you were stitching, that they said, this is just proof that the Jedi were horrible. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
they're not this monolith. You know? Just like in the Living Force, when Seppa has to constantly reiterate herself, like, they were supposed to make living arrangements for the family. And so, does it fall upon, is the onus on the Jedi as a machine? Because for that family not living in comfort and not having the correct protocol be followed. No, the onus is on that Jedi. That Jedi should have. And so the same thing with the Coven. Anastasia is wonderful. One would even say unreasonably reasonable. But to say...
Another would say, pretty hot.
But to say the entire Coven is innocent of any wrongdoing is too quick to judge. We don't know. Right? We don't know their motives. I mean, on paper, taking children and ascending them to be witches, it's culturally appropriate, but is it morally justifiable? We don't know. I mean, we have already one of the twins saying, I don't want to be a witch. Like, there's obviously some hubris in their actions as well. This is about power and who's allowed to use it. Also, we can use it. So, it really does feel like vanity in their case as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a different hot take though, but you can go first if you have a hot take.
I feel like I've gotten all of mine out. Yeah, I don't have anything else.
Xanato says the Knights of Ren were stupid and Kylo Ren should have been just Darth Cadus. Listen,
we need a
first.
Kanja Club movie. We need.
It's not Kanja Club. It's Kanja Club. You gotta say it in their accent.
I can't. But if I'm not mistaken, it's specifically Kanja Club that the people who are standing there were the characters from the movie The Raid.
Yeah.
And that's a fantastic movie if you haven't seen it. And so just do that in Star Wars.
Also, when I think of Kanji Club, all I think of is a bunch of Japanese people just like worshiping kanji. Like, these are so beautiful. You guys want to join the Kanji Club? What is it? You just love kanji. Right on. St. Pat says, so in the trailer, May takes Soul's lightsaber. After this last episode, I think he gets disarmed and she takes it up to defend her sister. Interesting. But they also could be a misdirect because there are some trailers that are, I mean, listen, this is the misdirect that I often point to a lot. Hulk wasn't in that scene with when the Avengers were running. So it could be that he takes his lightsaber in that scene where on Olega when they're fighting. Yeah. And that's just a cut. That's just one cut of that scene.
Also, the cover to the One Phase 2 book was kind of misleading.
Which Phase 2?
When you well, it was Gela's lightsaber, but being held by
yeah, Axel.
Yeah. And you're like, in Axel, he's not a Jedi. He didn't have the Force, but he has a lightsaber on the cover. Yeah.
I have a hot take. I don't want any clone shows for like 5 years minimum. I'll drink that Kool-Aid. Honestly, as much as I love the Bad Batch, now does Omega count as a clone? Because I would love to see her in another show as well. I don't want the Bad Batch there. I kind of want her to be on her own little path and journey.
And maybe call in once or twice.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be a show about clones. Here's the thing, Nedrix. Would you take a show with a clone, but it's not about cloning, and it's not about clones? Because I would love to see Omega in another project. Omega and Emery. Well, Master James Konomi says we need a clone show with Luke.
That's the wrong kind of clone show.
Craig says, I want a Jango Fett origin story show from before Attack of the Clones.
Y'all won't like it.
I mean, I guarantee you, and I will bet a spicy chip challenge to prove it, or to prove my solidarity or posterity. The first 5 minutes of a Jango Fett origin story is him taking the armor from what's his face?
I keep wanting to say Carvaster, but that's Mace Windu's cousin. So,
he takes it from the Mandalorian who found him, and he says, "I don't want to be a Mandalorian. I'm gonna be a bounty hunter." And then after that, there's gonna be a narrator that says, "And so Jango Fett was not a Mandalorian."
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna say, "Don't you want to stay? Don't you want to be a Mandalorian?" And he'll be like, I just want to be a simple
Chester
man
Mariel.
and make my way through the galaxy.
The names do come to me rather quickly.
All right.
Now, here's a question for you, Craig. If it turns out that Jango Fett was indeed not a Mandalorian and he chose not to take the creed, does it affect your fandom of Jango Fett and subsequently Boba Fett? Because there's a lot of people who love the character and will fight tooth and nail that he's a Mandalorian. And I'm just like, well, what if he isn't? Like, does that affect anything? He's still a badass bounty hunter.
It shouldn't. It actually makes his character better not being a Mandalorian, because if he is a Mandalorian, he's a terrible Mandalorian.
Yep.
They all care deeply about Mandalore and Mandalorians and their family and stuff. You know what I mean? And like Boba, we got to see Boba Fett wandering looking for a place to belong, and the first family he found was the Tuskens. There's a reason that wasn't Mandalorians, right? He doesn't consider himself Mandalorian. Yeah, I think it's...
What system was Jango Fett born on? So canonically, the story is that he was born on Concord Dawn, but there is speculation in universe that was ever the truth. But yeah, I agree. I think Jango Fett should be he should be from like Stu John. Just kidding. Also, before there was talk about the desire for a Sith planet, and all I could think of was like, tell y'all want a planet that's just named Sith? That'd be funny. Where are we off to, Master? Sith. Like nowhere. Sith. Oh.
Who lives there? The Sith. But yeah, I think that kind of wraps everything up. Do you have any other concluding thoughts, or?
St. Pat had a hot take that he deleted. Pat, if you want us to kind of address that hot take before we wrap things up, we can certainly do so. If you want to type that out again, I don't see any other hot takes. I will say this though. I don't know if this is a hot take. I think that the villains in New Jedi Order should be the Mandalorians, not the ones we know and love, but the Mandalorians,
led by God Emperor King Grogu.
I thought you were going to say Godzilla.
Him too. He's a Mandalorian now,
and his name is God Hand.
He drives an S2000. Yeah.
I thought Korriban is the Sith planet. The Sith were founded on Korriban. Yes,
Korriban. More like Moraband.
Korriban is the ancient name of the planet Moraband in canon. In Legends, Korriban is the Sith planet. But it was the planet of the Sithari that Junta Paul found and was like, oh, that's what he did.
Well, okay, and so this is also the problem with Legends, right? Because Korriban was the planet in Legends, but also, well, never mind.
You can't do that.
It's been done. No, my brain is tired, which is why I'm inching towards wrapping up.
Yeah. it is officially dinner time for us in the past, and for you guys in the future. It is getting late. So we've had a wonderful conversation with everybody tonight on Dyad and Force episode 177. These are the episodes that we live for. You know, when you guys are on your game and you guys are providing meaningful dialogue for us to have and just have fun with. These are the best episodes. And we thank you guys for tuning in and being a part of the show. But that's it. On to the next one.
For Light and for Life.
We are all the Acolyte. We are all Chimere.
And may soul be with you. Always.
That was my best. That's my best Basil.